Alright, how's it going, YouTube? Today I wanted to talk about the Polaroid I-2. I really like this camera. I'm not sponsored by Polaroid. I really like their products. I really enjoy the look of the film, and the cameras they're just really cool. Okay, so why do I love this camera so much? Well, for starters, it has manual controls and it's compatible with off-camera flash. I love that. I love that I can use this camera for off-camera flash studio portraits. I don't do it enough, but man, I just love that. Alright, so what else do I like about this camera? The lens. Guys, I know it's made out of plastic, but this lens has taken some of the sharpest Polaroids I've ever gotten out of a camera. It's really good. It's 98 millimeters, so 38 millimeters full frame terms. Got a maximum aperture of f8, which is equivalent to 2.8 on full frame, so you can get some pretty good bokeh out of it for portraits or whatever you're doing with it. It has 49 millimeter filter threads, so you can do what I've done here and put a protector filter on it to protect that plastic lens, or you could put an ND filter on it, or you could put color filters for black and white. Hell, you could even put special effect filters on here. Really, the sky's the limit with that 49 millimeter filter thread. So what are some other features this camera has? It has LiDAR autofocus. That's pretty cool. I haven't missed a shot because of the autofocus. As long as I do my part and make sure that I'm half pressing and recomposing, I'm gonna get an in focus image. Okay, something that is a bit of a negative about this camera is up until today, last night, I don't know when exactly Polaroid released this update, but up until today, the auto exposure was really questionable, and I've only gotten to test it a little bit, but I think it might be fixed. Anyway, before this update, if you wanted to get a good exposure in bright sunlight, you had to decrease the exposure compensation dial by -1/3 or -2/3, give or take. Otherwise, you were going to get a very overexposed Polaroid. So hopefully that update fixed that. What else? All right. The built-in battery. That's how I feel about that. Okay, so the battery in this camera, it's built in, you can't take it out. It's rechargeable. I don't really know why they did that. You'd figure a camera like this that's aimed at professional photographers, you'd figure that it would have an easily replaceable battery, right? So that we can rely on this camera. Well, probably 5-10 years from now, there's going to be a lot of dead i2s laying around. And the reason for that is this battery. So what makes that so much of a problem is that it's incredibly difficult to remove. It takes 2 to 3 hours. It's an over 100 step process. You have to remove the lens, you have to remove the viewfinder, you have to remove the flash, you have to remove the autofocus, you have to completely disassemble this camera. It's crazy. I don't really know what Polaroid were thinking. What's wild is if you open the film door and look up, which I'm not going to open the film door right now because I have film in here, but if you open the film door, you can see the battery. It's right there. Yeah, anyway, let's talk more about the camera. Alright, here's the viewfinder of the i2. As you can see, it's got frame lines. The inner frame lines are good for 1 meter. Everything else is somewhere in between that. On that lower level, you've got your distance reading for your autofocus, then your aperture, and then an exposure meter, your shutter speed, and then you've got your auto exposure lock indicator, whether your flash is on or not, the number of shots remaining in the pack, and the battery life. Alright, so here's the controls of the i2. On the front, you've got the shutter button. Pretty much it for the front. Nothing on this side. And the film door latch on this side. On top, you've got the settings scroll wheel. Nice and clicky. Behind that, you've got the exposure compensation dial. And then down here, you've got a little screen with some buttons. You've got a power button. The flash button. And then the mode switch button. Got aperture priority. Shutter priority. Manual. And once you're in manual, this button turns into a settings switch like you can switch between which settings you're controlling. If you push it too quick though, you're gonna change to multiple exposure mode like I just did. And then you've got a self timer. And that brings you back around to full auto. On the back of the camera, you've got the USB-C charging port and the 2.5mm flash sync jack. And then on the bottom, you have a tripod socket and a nice little quote from Edwin Land. Alright, that's pretty much it for controls on the Polaroid I-2. Alright, the next thing I want to talk about with the Polaroid I-2 is flash. It does have a built-in flash, it's not very powerful, and it's only good for about 8 feet. It's mostly a fill flash if you're outdoors, or maybe it's your main source of light indoors. The main thing you're going to want to do flash with this camera is use off-camera flash, which this camera can do. You're going to need a couple pieces of equipment. You're going to need a 2.5mm audio cable, like this one. It has to be a mono cable. See how there's just one ring? If you get one with two, you're gonna have a bad time and you're gonna waste film. Ask me how I know that. Alright, so how do you set this sucker up for flash? Well, take one of these cables, plug it into the back, get yourself a cold shoe adapter, slide that on the viewfinder, slide your trigger into that, and then plug your cable into there, and then hey, look at that. That's pretty slick. Well, that's pretty much all I have to say about the i2. I know it has its issues, but I still find myself reaching for this over my SX70, and I think that says a lot. Let me know what you think down below. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.